Madam Deputy Speaker, the COVID pandemic, unknown to the world 9 months ago, has required businesses, people and government to make huge and rapid changes to the way we live our lives with a speed that was unthinkable before the coronavirus struck. Nightingale hospitals were constructed within days and made capable very quickly of accommodating hundreds of ventilated patients. Supermarkets doubled their capacity for online deliveries. The government introduced the coronavirus job retention scheme and within days was paying the wages of 4 million employees. Advice was given that those who could should work from home, giving rise to an instant leap in the take-up of video conferencing through services like Zoom and introducing millions of people to the previously unexperienced sensation of being exhausted by staring at a screen all day. For all of the tragedies and the privations of the last few months, it has been a time of agility and innovation in the way that we do things. Yet through this period of the most tumultuous change that any of us have experienced during our lifetimes, one thing that has proved impervious to alteration, a monument to inflexibility, is the railway season ticket. My constituents in Tunbridge Wells, High Brooms and Paddock Wood, if they take a southeastern train to work in London, face the same bill of fare that they've had since the 1950s. They either have to buy a 7-day-a-week season ticket from Southeastern, or they have to buy daily tickets at the highest fare for the journey, with no discount for frequent and regular travellers. Happily give way to the honourable gentleman.
Does the right honourable member not agree that with many students, especially in my constituency and indeed in your constituency, the honourable members I mean, and also in other constituencies, that commuting to their university is essential, that if they are to put in lockdown, they do then lose their weeks on their rail cards. And as airlines have been flexible, so must rail and other transport providers.
Makes a very good point that it's not only workers who commute. There are many students who commute into the capital and indeed other cities around the country, and I dare say in Northern Ireland too, so I'm grateful for his point. But the economics of the situation are this. A standard class season ticket from Tunbridge Wells costs £4,928 a year, a large amount of money. The price of a daily standard peak return ticket is £39.90. This means that someone travelling 3 days a week to London for 47 weeks of the year must pay £5,626. In other words, it costs over £700 more to travel 3 days a week than 5 days a week or even 7 days a week. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a ludicrous anachronism and an outrageous injustice that we have had the same fare structure for workers in 1920 as we did in 1950. And there are many reasons why this is no longer tolerable. First, even before COVID, the pattern of working life has changed since the 1950s. Many people work less than 5 days a week from a workplace in a city centre. Either they work part-time or they don't need to travel every day. How can it be that our railways have not noticed a change that has been happening for decades? Second, people who work part-time usually earn less money than people who work full-time. So to penalise the poorest workers is a regressive policy that adds to poverty and is a barrier to work. Third, more women than men work, or in some cases wish to work, part-time. The standard fares policy means that it costs them more to do so. And so, because pay is still not equal, women have a further obstacle to accessing good jobs and careers thrown up in front of them by a fares system that can make it too costly to take up opportunities. And the same is true, Madam Deputy Speaker, but worse, for disabled people and people as they get older. Fourth, the fare structure flies in the face of the advice that the government is currently giving to curb the spread of COVID. Work from home if you can, it says. For many people, this means going into the office less, perhaps going for important meetings or to train newer and younger colleagues, perhaps, and working from home more. That pattern is not supported if it's cheaper to travel 5 days a week than it is 3 days a week. And fifth, it hampers our recovery from the economic consequences of COVID. Our businesses and their staff need to be flexible and adaptive. Instead, working patterns will be formed not by what's ideal for the business and the worker, but to conform to an antiquated fares system. I'm very happy to give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you. Does my honourable friend agree with me that rail operators must act responsibly during the pandemic to ensure passengers do not have to choose between a journey on an overcrowded train and paying the top rates for anytime travel tickets? On the West Coast line, for example, travel between London and Stoke-on-Trent rises from £53 to £129 after 3 p.m. and only returns to £53 at 7 p.m. when the train is packed. Surely a temporary suspension of peak fares whilst the country is in a national health emergency is the right thing to do to protect rail travellers.
Well, I agree with my honourable friend to this point. This is a time in which we must display the same flexibility and innovation and responsiveness that we have and we've had to in so many other areas of life, and we should not be bound by structures that we inherited. So I say to the Minister, it's time now to make this change. It doesn't have to be this way. If we can bring in a job retention scheme within days of the need being identified, if we can invent a scheme in July to help thousands of restaurants attract back millions of customers in August, if businesses can switch to conducting meetings online virtually overnight, then surely we're more than capable of introducing, without further procrastination, a train ticket to meet the needs of part-time and flexible workers. There's no shortage of models available. A ticket that allows any 3 days in 7, for example, a ticket that permits travel any 12 days in a month, at the most basic, a carnet system that gives a discount on the purchase of multiple peak time tickets to be used within a limited period. Now, my honourable friend, the member for Chatham and Aylesford, wrote with all Kent MPs to the Managing Director of South Eastern at the end of July. The Managing Director, Mr Statham, replied that South Eastern had submitted proposals for flexible ticketing to the Department for Transport and is waiting for the Department's authorisation under the Emergency Measures Agreement. So I say to the Minister, please act now. As the Transport Secretary said last week, we are in a different era. The government is, which is to say we are, paying for the railway. With these COVID-changed circumstances, very few people are going to be paying for an annual 7-day-a-week ticket anytime soon. That money is simply not coming in. Of course I'll give way to the Honourable Lady.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I've been hearing from constituents for years who are desperate for part-time season tickets, and I agree with the Honourable Gentleman who's making some brilliant points about this. And I've been speaking to the member for Slough, our Shadow Rail Minister, and he's in agreement with me. With the job market about to be reeling for years and years in a post-COVID environment, does the Honourable Gentleman agree with me that the government must do everything and anything it can, such as allowing part-time season tickets, or at least thinking about that, to allow businesses to create new jobs as well as flexible part-time working?
Yeah, Honourable Lady, I think, as I've said in my speech, I think this is a problem that has persisted for too long. We need to catch up with the 21st century. But now is a particular moment to make that reform so that people can go back to work according to the needs of their employer, but also to respect the advice to stay and work at home where possible. And so, whereas the launch of a flexible commuting ticket, by contrast to a full season ticket, 5 days or 7 days a week, a flexible commuting ticket is something that is likely to be bought by commuters here and now, and can actually increase revenue to the railway and to the taxpayer, while fighting COVID by supporting people not going into the office every day and providing a long overdue journey of the railway fare system to have a rendezvous with working life in the 21st century. Now, I suspect that the Minister, whose talents I admire, will be briefed to buy time and to say that these things must be examined in greater detail. But my admiration of him extends to the knowledge that he's embraced his portfolio with enthusiasm and ambition. He doesn't need to be a captive of the standard advice that has been given for years on this subject. He can make a difference, and make a difference during the next few weeks ahead. And if he does, he will go down in railway history as one of the reformers, if he is the Minister who brings railway ticketing into modern times, and I urge him to do it.